Hello, everybody, and welcome to this special presentation of how speech analytics works, avoiding why programs fail. Because here's what we know about speech analytics is it's not just some simple solution. And being successful with it is also not extremely commonplace. I mean, everybody is going through their own learning, and we're going to talk about a lot of that. Some of the common things that come up, some of the things that you probably have not been exposed to, and some things that you absolutely will want to get exposed to. But here's what I know, is that we have a goal that by the end of this webinar, that you'll have a plan to improve your speech analytics ROI in a way to dramatically reduce the time and effort to get it. And here's the thing. If you can reduce your time and effort, you know what that means? That mentally, you're removing a significant burden to yourself and everybody else around you. So when you start thinking about technology solutions shouldn't add to your burden. But speech analytics could do that. If you don't have a proper plan to know how to get ROI and benefit from it today, tomorrow, next week, and going forward. And that doesn't come simple and easy. Now, you may be someone who's getting ready to embark on speech analytics or purchase a solution or build a program. You may already be in one. You may be part of one that's getting ready to be defunded and actually dispersed, because everybody is on somewhere in that life cycle of speech analytics. And this presentation really could help every single one of you, including the executive who could be in charge of a speech analytics program and wants to say, hey, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing here, right? So there's a lot of people who could benefit from the information and insights from this webinar. My name is Jim Rembach, and I am the chief editor for DX Global Media, as well as wear a couple different hats in the contact center industry, including have my own virtual leadership academy called Call Center Coach, where we develop frontline supervisors and emerging supervisors. Hey, and we even have some senior level people in the academy so that they can refresh their skills. And it's just a way by which we all can move onward and upward faster. If anybody have heard my podcast, The Fast Leader Show, we talk about customer-centric leadership. We talk about being able to deliver a customer experience that's differentiated, and how do you go about doing that? And everything that we do in the contact center is about learning, and having a journey of learning and ultimately passing that on. And that's part of what we're going to do here in this presentation. So if you stay to the end, you're absolutely going to get something and obtain something that you can't find anywhere else, right? So we're going to expose you and share you things that you've never seen before, some things that may change your thinking about what you already have been exposed to, and a new way of moving forward. And part of that starts with stories and learning from the experiences of others, which is critically important for all of us. So we're going to talk about a real life journey. And we've been lucky enough to have Carmit DiAndrea share her journey. And I'm not going to steal her thunder and give a whole lot of background into that story, because it's her story and I want her to share it with you. But she is a global analytics expert that also is a college professor, a board member, and has worn many hats of leadership in the analytics world in contact centers. And I'm really excited to have her on the on this webinar with me. Carmit, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jim.
Now, if you can, give us a little bit of background and story about your experience with your speech analytics program.
Absolutely. And I guess I'll start by saying I think speech analytics is amazing technology. I've been working with it for about 8 years, but as Jim mentioned, it definitely has the potential to be really, really expensive shelfware. And so the first thought I'll share with you is that the people that you create, that you build, the team that you build around speech analytics, and the processes that you build are as important as the technology that you choose. And so we're going to really talk about what that means and what that looks like today. A few years back, I had the great privilege of launching and growing a speech analytics practice at a cable company. And when I started, we were probably about 6 months into a really, really rough technology implementation. And so right from the get-go, our speech analytics practice had a black eye around it, and a lot of negative buzz, a lot of people who really wanted to defund the project before it ever had a chance to get off the ground. And so the first thing I had to do in entering this organization is overcome that black eye. We did this over a period of about 4.5 years, and our team became a very, very well-regarded business insight team. We created a great value proposition. I had the opportunity to grow that team over 500% in those 4.5 to 5 years. And we delivered millions of dollars of value to the organization in terms of cost savings, in terms of increased sales, in terms of better customer experience, better loyalty, better employee or customer spend, and longer customer retention. And so it was a really, really great story, but it happened through a lot of painful lessons, a lot of really, really good planning. And so that's really what I want to share with you today, because we did a lot of things right. And part of that was having the right team, and the autonomy to create our own processes, and to determine how we would engage with the organization. But we also did a lot of things wrong, and we learned a lot from those mistakes. And so that's what I want to share with you today as you either embark on your own speech analytics journey, as you work to rebrand a speech analytics practice that has gone sideways, or as you're trying to make a business case for why you should invest in this technology and this team. Good. So a lot of what we're going to share today is all about how you can learn from my wins and my team's mistakes, so that you can travel down the easy path, and learn from everything that I will share with you today. So before we kind of jump in, I want to share with you a quick statistic, and that is that 75% of transformation efforts don't deliver the hoped for results. And this is a quote from the Boston Consulting Group. And I really want you to start thinking of speech analytics as a transformational piece of technology, because it really, really is. And so it comes with all of the benefits, but also all of the pitfalls that come along with any organizational transformation effort. And so I think a lot of what you need to think about as you embark down this path is how are you going to present your team and this technology to the organization? Because the way that you brand this is going to be a key part of how you succeed or how you fail. And then, as with every transformation effort, how are you going to build a process that is repeatable? And how are you going to quantify the benefits to the organization in a way that is conservative, in a way that is believable, in a way that others, key constituents, key stakeholders within your organization will buy into? So I'm going to start with the problem that I had walking into this organization. I was the new leader of a brand new speech analytics team. The technology solution had just been stood up after 6 very long and very frustrating months of trying. And those 6 months were partially because of the technology provider, and they were partially because of our own IT organization. But the net result is that anyone who had been a big proponent of speech analytics was now starting to step away from that. And anyone who was a naysayer had a great deal of evidence to suggest why we shouldn't have made the investment in the first place. And so that's kind of a really rough way to come into an organization and try and launch a brand new practice. And so as I embarked on my journey and my team's journey, I realized a number of things. The first is that I knew I had to separate myself and my team from a really, really painful technology implementation. I had to find some way of leaving that in the past, and creating a new path for us to move forward. I had to deliver on an initial use case for the technology that was made before I joined the organization. And that use case was to use speech analytics to really increase the efficiency and the value that the organization's quality program was delivering. And while this is a valid and valuable use case for speech analytics, it's probably not the use case that I would have started as a way to prove the value of speech analytics. And so I was left with this use case, this promise that I didn't make, but yet I had to fulfill upon very, very early on. And finally, the last epiphany was that I quickly needed to start generating value and financial value back to the business before someone decided to defund the team and the technology. So given that this use case was probably not the one I would have started with, I needed to execute on that. I needed to deliver on that promise. And then I quickly needed to switch gears and point my effort and my team's efforts towards use cases that I knew could deliver far more ROI to the organization. And so these were the first three things that I really needed to accomplish, and pretty quickly before this ticking clock of defunding this project came to fruition.
Well, Carmit, I think it's important to note that you didn't come into this particular role with a lack of experience. For those who don't have any familiarity or understanding into your journey with speech analytics prior to this role, give us a little bit of understanding of your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent probably about eight and a half years working for a third-party quality monitoring company. And a lot of what I did there was really try and figure out how do we use this data that we're collecting while listening to calls and reading chats and reading email interactions, and how do we use analytics to convert those data points into insights that can transform organizations. And so I did that. And I also worked for a market research company, really, again, using data analytics and survey data to figure out how do we transform organizations and transform the way that they interact with their customers and deliver better customer experiences. So you're right, Jim. I had a very, very solid foundation in data analytics, in data projects, in data cleansing, and data preparation. And that really was a very important foundation in helping me kind of navigate these potential pitfalls. I guess the other piece I would share is that I spent a good portion of my career really trying to become a very effective data storyteller and being able to tell the analytics story in a way that connect to my audience and drive action. So I would add that was also a big key to my team's success, the ability to tell a story that compels action. So as we move on from the epiphanies into the actual execution, the first thing that I did is rebrand speech analytics within the organization. Again, I wanted to kind of try and keep the difficult technology implementation in the past and put a new face on this team and this technology. And so the first thing I did was I did an internal roadshow with as many potential stakeholders within the organization as possible. I was part of a team that was called internal shared services, which means that anyone within the organization could come to my team with a project, with a request. And so I tried to get time on the calendars with as many of my potential internal clients as possible and really share with them, what is speech analytics technology? How does our specific technology work? What are the limitations of that technology, given the fact that we have highly technical conversations with our customers? How can you as a team within this organization engage with my team? What does a successful project look like? What does a successful engagement look like? And what is my vision for how speech analytics will deliver value back to the organization? And so I created this presentation and delivered it to as many possible internal stakeholders as I could as a way to start creating a pipeline of projects for my team to engage in. Part of that presentation was presenting success cases. And because I'd spent a good portion of my previous career as a consultant, I had some sanitized use cases that I could share with my prospective internal clients. My technology vendor also helped me with this as well, because they have a lot of sanitized use cases that they share with their prospects and their clients. And so my technology vendor here was a great partner. And this was really a large-scale effort to educate the organization about the technology, about how to engage with my team and the processes that we were going to use to engage with them and to evaluate their project requests and prioritize and vet them. And so in addition to educating the organization about what the technology is and what my team does, it was really about creating a level of expectation about how our engagements would move forward. So just to give you a few statistics about what we were able to accomplish, we actually generated a 100% payback on the initial technology investment within 9 months of fully launching a speech analytics practice. Our single largest project delivered about $2.7 million of cost savings through deflecting calls to self-serve channels or to lower cost interaction channels. And in the first year of our team's establishment, we completed around 25 different projects for different stakeholders within the organization. So in terms of how we accomplished some of what we accomplished, it really started with that roadshow that I did that educated the organization on the technology and the team. It was about educating stakeholders on how to engage with my team and how we would evaluate their project and report requests in light of all of the other project and report requests we were receiving from every other potential stakeholders. It was about establishing processes to vet and execute projects. And it was largely about partnership to implement solutions. This was a very, very large part of the success. In all of my years working in analytics, I can't tell you the number of times groups or clients have asked me for an analysis, and I've conducted the analysis and delivered the findings, and they were super pleased with the findings, and then nothing ever happened because priorities shifted or someone else within the organization didn't think it was a good idea. So a big part of my speech analytics team's success was that even after delivering findings, we actually remained engaged to help the team implement solutions and most importantly, quantify the value that they delivered back to the organization by implementing those solutions. And so it not only ensured that we were acting on the data, but also built a partnership and allowed this team to build a pipeline of how they delivered value to the organization. So I would say that as a recap to that phase, alone we can do very little, but together we can do a whole lot more. And so I would say that one of the key learnings for me was that point around partnership in implementation, and don't undervalue that. Just because you deliver a fantastic project and fantastic results doesn't mean that anyone will actually take action. I think the second lesson that I learned in building and growing a speech analytics practice is that I really needed to deliver on that initial use case, even if it wasn't mine. And so the way that I approached that is I obviously had a fairly deep background in quality assurance, and so that certainly helped me. But I also had a good understanding of the capabilities as well as the limitations of speech analytics technology. So I started by looking at the quality assurance form for a particular line of business, and I identified 2 or 3 criteria that I knew speech analytics would be able to accurately assess. And when we talk about that, they tend to be binary criteria, so yes or no, very clear-cut, very black and white, and they tend to be criteria that even a human evaluator or a group of human evaluators tend to have a great deal of consistency in scoring. And so I wanted an easy win. I wanted a way to start to prove that the technology really could replace humans for scoring, for very specific type of scoring. And so I started with a small number of criteria as a test bed. And in terms of testing, I actually ran human scoring and speech analytics or automated scoring in tandem for a period of about 45 to 60 days. I think that would be a good place to start. And one of the key reasons for this is that whenever you switch a quality program, whenever you switch from a human to an automated or technology-driven process, there are going to be changes. And so I needed to level set with the organization and help them understand that there would be a change as they transitioned from human scoring to technology scoring. And I needed them to understand the magnitude of that change. And so by running in tandem for 45 to 60 days, I could demonstrate the consistency of the machine scoring. I could address any gaps between the human scoring and the technology scoring and give everyone an opportunity to really look at this transition, to have their voices heard, and to really dig in and create evidence of why the technology really is working as intended, even though it may not reflect the human scoring that existed previously. And that was all about sharing the findings, sharing the gaps, explaining the gaps, and giving everyone an opportunity to weigh in, and also giving myself an opportunity to refine any elements of the automated scoring before we actually implement and replace. And then we repeated that process until we essentially automated any QA criteria that could be successfully auto-scored. I will warn you that in any QA process, there are criteria that are incredibly subjective and incredibly hard to get any human raters or human QA staff to calibrate on. And so when you think about soft skills, when you think about things like taking ownership of a customer's problem, when you think about empathy, when you think about all of those soft skills that really make or break a human interaction, those are incredibly subjective, and they tend to be difficult to calibrate on. So if they're difficult for a human to calibrate on, just understand that it's going to be hard to train a machine to score those effectively. And so I essentially repeated the process of testing 2 or 3 QA criteria with automated scoring until I knew that the technology had reached its limitation in being able to accurately assess and evaluate human conversation. And so just to give you a few statistics there, we were able to automate about 20% of the criteria. So 6 criteria from a forum that had about 30, very, very successfully, because they were fairly black and white, fairly binary, and if we just stopped there, we would have achieved 100% sample size on those 6 automated criteria, and we would have replaced 5 full-time QA staff. And when I say replace, I don't mean we eliminated them. I mean we were able to refocus their efforts and really gain a larger sample size on some of those more subjective criteria, some of those criteria which we might be able to say have a greater impact on overall customer experience, customer loyalty, to the brand, and so forth. But this is not necessarily where we stopped. This was phase 1. As we moved on to phase 2, we automated more and more of the quality form. And for us, the upper limit on different lines of business was being able to automate anywhere between 50 to 60% of the form. And that will vary by the type of business that you work in. But that was kind of the upper limit that we found for a majority of our lines of business in a cable organization.
Okay, Carmit, as we're going through this, I'm also starting to think about impact of these things that are being measured. I would also dare to say that you started getting greater insight into knowing weighting, importance, relevance, correlations. I mean, all of those things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk far more about that as we get a little bit deeper. There's an analytic value model where we really start to talk about the various activities that you engage in at various maturation points of speech analytics, the different activities and the different degrees of value and ROI you can deliver back to the organization through those activities. So just to recap how we did this, we started by identifying 2 or 3 criteria that we knew were fairly confident that speech analytics could accurately assess. We ran in tandem for a while, testing speech scoring versus human QA scoring. We shared our findings, we shared the gaps, we explained the gaps, and then we refined the automated or speech analytics scoring as necessary. And then we repeated the process until it was found to be exhaustive, meaning we really couldn't successfully and accurately automate any more of the quality assurance form. So I guess my recap here would be that great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. I can't underscore the importance of testing, the importance of planning in anything. This is true in any analytic venture. And as we move through today's conversation, you'll see that a lot of planning has been put forward into building processes so that we can scale a speech analytics practice for success. Okay, the third lesson was that I quickly needed to generate valuable and actionable business insights and start delivering value on this very, very large technology investment before someone decided to defund the team and defund the technology. And so if I talk through how we did this, it really was about creating a process for vetting and prioritizing project requests. When I started and I did my roadshow, I literally had no one who really wanted to work with my team, but slowly and surely, we started doing projects, and those projects then became part of my roadshow for other stakeholders that I was coming across. And very quickly, my team had the exact opposite problem of we were receiving far more project requests than we could reasonably execute with my team and my bandwidth. And so we had to come up with a way of prioritizing and vetting projects. When I talk about vetting projects, it's making sure that the questions that are being asked are good and strong hypotheses, and that there is a good data environment in which to execute this project. In terms of prioritizing, I could do any number of 20 projects. I need to have some repeatable and expected way of prioritizing those. And the way that I chose to prioritize is through alignment of the KPIs that our executives were being held accountable to. So whatever way you choose, you need to have some repeatable way of prioritizing and vetting your project requests. I leaned very heavily on SMEs, business subject matter experts, on my team and outside of my team for hypothesis creation, which really translated into how we were going to execute the project and what data elements that we needed. I will be honest in saying that walking into a cable company, I had absolutely no experience in cable other than a consumer. But I had a lot of experience in data analytics and data storytelling and speech analytics. And so the way that I built my team around me is I needed those cable subject matter experts. And that's exactly who I hired to represent the remainder of my team. We had 3 primary products that accounted for a bulk of our revenue. And so I hired into my team people who knew each of those products very, very deeply. And because they knew those products deeply, and from a technology perspective, what could go wrong and how those products functioned, I was able to lean very heavily on them to understand what are the probable underlying root causes of the problems that our customers are experiencing, and how do I translate those into data capture elements that I can then analyze. Data cleansing, preparation. There is nothing sexy about data cleansing and preparation. No one wants to hear about how long it takes you to do it, but anyone who lives in data knows that it takes way longer than anyone thinks and way longer than anyone wants to admit. But I can't underscore the importance of doing that. From my perspective, the data that I analyze, the data that I generate, and the insights that my team produces is our primary deliverable back to the organization. And if the data is not clean, if the data is flawed, then everything that we deliver back to the organization is flawed and suspect. And so we spent a lot of time on data cleansing, on preparation and analysis. And finally, the data storytelling, a very, very important part of our success, presenting of findings and partnering through the implementation phase. I'll tell you one funny story. This was very early on in my career. I had built a predictive model that I thought was really exciting, really, really awesome, and I was getting very, very data geeky about my predictive model in a presentation back to stakeholders, and no one else cared. they probably didn't understand, but even if they did, they may not have cared. What I was missing was the piece that they did care about. What does this mean and how do I fix it? And so as you're preparing your presentations, keep in mind what your audience cares about, and what they, more importantly, what they don't care about, and structure your presentation accordingly. And most importantly, remain engaged through that implementation phase. You'd be amazed at what you learn in the implementation phase. And I can tell you that many follow-up projects came to my team as a result of the things that we learned in implementing solutions. So a few statistics to kind of wrap up that part of the discussion. In year 1, we did about 25 projects. In year 4, we did 60 projects with an expanded team, and speech analytics really became viewed as a critical business insight function. And that's just a testament to the team, the technology, and the processes and relationships that we built through those 60 projects. So if you want to kind of learn how to do this yourself, the key takeaways is that you really need to create a process for vetting and prioritizing project requests. And this is not a process that you should keep hidden within your team. This is part of your roadshow. This is something that you should share with every potential stakeholder so that they understand the level of detail and rigor that has been put into this process, and so that they understand how you're going to be engaging with them moving forward. You want everything to be very well understood. You don't want engagement with your team to be a mystery. Secure business SMEs to help you in hypothesis creation and data capture. I was lucky enough that I was able to build my team and build those SMEs into my team. But if you can't, those business SMEs exist within your organization. Find them wherever they are and use them and partner with them to create hypotheses and to create a data capture plan. Engage with your project stakeholders through the implementation phase and the solutioning phase, and partner with them to help them quantify the financial value that they are delivering to the business by implementing your solutions. And then rinse and repeat. This is what you do with every single project. This should be the repeatable part and the scalable part of your success. And as a recap, planning is as natural to the process of success as its absence is to the process of failure. And so anyone who knows me will know that I say this quite often about myself. Some people just show up and magic happens. For others, planning is a big part of their success, and I am very much a planner. So I believe in planning for success, and I believe that the absence of planning is a good recipe for failure. So the big 3 lessons I think I would use as a recap is avoiding the challenges of technology. And if you can't avoid them, try to find a way to separate your team, to separate your practice from the challenging implementation issues. For me, it was rebranding our speech analytics practice by doing a roadshow. There may be a different way that you need to separate yourself from a difficult technology implementation, but just understand that you need to separate yourself. If you're going to put a brand new face on your practice, and give your practice an opportunity to really shine and deliver the value that we all know it can. Deliver on initial use cases, even if they're not yours. Some executives signed off on a technology investment based on the use case, and so it's now your job to really execute on that. But then it's really important to have a long-term vision for how you're going to deliver value to the organization, not just in year 1, but in year 2 and in year 3. And there should be a maturation cycle. And so definitely spend some time strategically thinking about how you're going to grow your team, how you're going to grow and mature the way that your practice delivers value back to the organization, and start pivoting as quickly as you can from that initial use case to your long-term strategy. So I referenced the analytic value model a number of times in our conversations so far. This is not something I invented. This is something that you can find related to many analytic practices, but it really focuses on 4 stages. The beginning stages is is really executing on what we call descriptive analytics. And descriptive analytics really answer the question of what happened. It's backwards looking, but it's looking at the past, trying to understand or quantify what happened. And so when you think of this in terms of a speech analytics practice and using speech analytics to execute on that answer of what happened, you're really talking about activities like query or category building. You're talking about reporting. You're talking about data visualization. You're talking about dashboard creation. It's all backwards looking, but it's an important activity to be able to help the business answer what happened in the past. As you move on to stage 2, you really move into diagnostic analytics. And those diagnostics really aim to answer, why did something happen? It's still looking in the past, but it's really trying to understand the underlying root cause of what happened. And so when we think about a speech analytics practice, some of the key activities that you're going to engage in answering some diagnostic questions is deep dive projects, root cause analysis, correlation analysis, all in an effort to try and understand not just what happened, but more importantly, why did it happen? And that's kind of a foundational step to the next stage, which is what is likely to happen in the future given this current state of events. And so as we move into phase number 3, we're now talking about predictive analytics and being able to answer the key question of, given the situation that I am in right now, what is likely to happen in the future? And so the key activity that you're going to engage in here is either building predictive models or refining or enhancing predictive models that the organization already has. If we talk about an example, a great place to start is building a predictive model or enhancing a predictive model around customer experience, customer satisfaction, so a CSAT survey or a Net Promoter Score survey. That's a great use case, starting use case for predictive analytics. As you get into your predictive practice and you start breaking down data silos and start integrating more metadata into your speech analytics practice, you can get a bit more sophisticated and start to predict or enhance models that are aiming to predict things like customer retention or customer attrition. And finally, we'll move into the last phase, which I will admit is fairly nascent in our world today, but it is prescriptive analytics. And it really aims to answer the question, given predictive analytics, given what is likely to happen, what can I do to change that? What can I do to minimize outcomes that I don't like and amplify outcomes that I do want to happen? And so I started by saying this is fairly nascent, and it is. But that doesn't mean that the technology and that AI is not actively pursuing ways to make this more of a reality, to make prescriptive analytics more operational in real time. So as you think about building, growing, establishing a speech analytics practice, you're likely going to start with descriptive analytics because it is foundational. But really think about how you're going to push your organization down this maturation scale, and how you're going to break down data silos and bring in other data sources that can really help you be successful as you move into diagnostic and predictive and perhaps even prescriptive analytics. So now we're going to start talking a little bit about some of the early questions that you might be pondering, or that executives might be coming to you, or that you might be bringing to your technology supplier in the early days of your practice. And so I have spent time on the technology supplier side. And so one of the common early questions is, what is the average payback or ROI period for a speech analytics investment? It's a common question. It's probably one of my least favorite questions. And the real answer is, it depends. And that's everyone's least favorite answer because it's not all that instructive. But I'm going to give you a bit more detail on why the answer is the answer. How quickly you can provide value ROI, complete payback, is largely dependent on you and your organization. And it depends on many, many things, many, many factors. It depends on how you choose to implement the technology. You can choose to implement it on premise within your organization, which means that someone, likely a team within your IT organization, is going to have to be engaged. You might implement this in the cloud, which means that your data security officer may become engaged and may have questions. And so your implementation method is going to be one of the key drivers in your payback period. The way that you staff your team, the size of your team, is going to be a big factor in how quickly you can generate payback. I was lucky in that I was a leader of a team that had one manager and 3 analysts. But had I had less, if it was a team of me and 1 manager, it would have taken us longer. The fact is that when you launch a speech analytics practice, you're going to have to spend a lot of time building queries, building categories as a way to mine and search and gain insight into your phone interactions. And that simply takes time if you do it right, and you should. The other factor is, are you going to complete vendor provided training? And if so, how quickly and how long is that training? Do you have an executive sponsor that's going to make key groups, key constituents, key stakeholders pay attention to you? Or are you going to have to fight for resources? Are you going to have to fight in order to get your first and your second and your third project? You need to consider data governance and data cleanliness and the way that you're going to take in and evaluate project and report requests. And so the faster you can build some of those foundational elements, the quicker you can actually transition to delivering value, delivering ROI. And so there's a lot of factors that really drive the ROI or payback period. And so the more you can learn through courses like this, the quicker you can accelerate your path to success and your path to ROI, your path to payback. The other question that you will encounter from many of your internal stakeholders is, what is speech analytics, and perhaps maybe why should I buy it? And so there's a lot of different answers to this question. I think the key component of the answer is that speech analytics is technology that takes unstructured human conversations that take place between your customers and your organization and turns it into structured, mineable, searchable data so that you can gain insights into 100% of your phone interactions, as opposed to the small sample of phone calls that you might be able to listen to with a human team. At the core, that is what speech analytics is, and that is what it does. Beyond that, you can get into a lot of deeper conversations around how speech analytics works. Are you looking at a system that works phonetically? Are you looking at a system that works linguistically? And those are really important questions and important considerations when you're making a technology selection. And we get into all of that in some of our coursework. One of my favorite questions is, will speech analytics replace my QA team? And this is typically asked with a great deal of fear and trepidation. And I guess my initial answer is no, not yet. Automating quality assurance is one of the use cases of speech analytics. And as we discussed, it is possible to automate part of a quality form. And I suspect that as AI technology gets more and more sophisticated, it will be possible to automate more and more portions of a human listening process. But for now, there's still a lot of subjectivity in human conversations that really require the benefit of human judgment in order to score those components correctly. But I guess the larger part of this answer is that automating a quality practice is really not where you are going to get the largest return on your investment in terms of speech analytics use cases. Typically where an organization starts with speech analytics is to improve efficiency, to reduce cost, to deflect calls to lower cost channels, and to improve customer experience. I think those are are use cases for speech analytics that deliver far higher levels of ROI and value as opposed to automating quality assurance practices. And I would kind of summarize that by saying that the best use cases for speech analytics are those that align to your organizational initiatives and philosophies. If you are an organization that at its core is really, really focused on cost containment and minimizing the cost of your contact center operations, then you really need to start with speech analytics use cases that help you do that. If you are an organization that is entirely focused on customer centricity and delivering the best possible experience for your customers, regardless of what it may cost your organization short term, then that is where you really need to point to this very, very powerful speech analytics tool.
And so if you're actually part of this webinar, you are extremely lucky. That's correct. Because everything that Carmit just walked through, all the things associated with the reporting, the people, the processes, the technologies, all of that is included in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. So Carmit has taken that story, as well as all of the other experiences that she has gone through in her analytics projects and programs and success and failures, and have included them in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. Now, I had also mentioned to you that you're getting the opportunity to get exposure and insights into something that you've never seen before, because here's what we know. You can go through and you can take every single one of those to-dos and how we did it and be able to create your own plan, try to look and see and figure out where you are on the value model, trying to know if you've ever gone beyond and are doing the wrong thing and have the wrong expectations. Knowing that if you are part of a program that has failed, you can try to figure out how to recover from it. If you're getting ready to embark on one, and you really, don't know the first step and you just want to figure out your way through it, that gets eliminated because Carmit has taken all of that and has put it in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. So here's what the Speech Analytics Masterclass is. Because here's you're not going to find anything else like this in the entire contact center industry. I know I've been in it for a couple decades. Speech analytics has become a viable solution, and I've talked with Carmit about this before. Really, for the past 10 years has been, somewhat of a solution that more and more organizations are focusing in on. But the maturation of it and the adoption of it is growing at an ever increasing rate. So everything that we talk about, the people, the process, the technology, all that stuff, it is a living and breathing thing. It's never ending. So you're learning about speech analytics. It can't stop with today, because if it does, so will your success. So the Speech Analytics Masterclass has a community. It has micro learning. It has quick tips, Q&A sessions, industry insights, as well as can lead to a certification program. And it is a virtual blended learning platform and system and academy for speech analytics. Again, there's nothing else like it. Most organizations, what they'll do is they'll put you through some workshops, or, you'll have, some other type of, very defined and ending speech analytics training process. That's not what this is. This is ongoing and forever. That's right. On demand, 24/7, 365. So who is this actually for? This is for people who don't want to, continually skin their knees and try to figure this out. Those that, want to get to taking action and getting return faster. It is for those that want to act and know that they've acted with the right step in the right way. And it's for like me, those that are impatient. I don't want to try to figure this all out. I want to be able to see where others have had successes and try to put it in within my own organization and my own practices. So, you have to be open-minded, right? If you're going to be closed-minded, then you're not going to find success with speech analytics because you won't be open to other people's ideas. So if you're open-minded, the Speech Analytics Masterclass is absolutely for you, because in and of itself, the community that you get to participate in are of people who have the same goals and desires as you. That's to be successful. I don't think anybody undertakes any speech analytics activity or job for that matter that says, I'm in it to fail. No, we're in it to win it. Now, and that winning it is defined in a lot of different ways. So the people who should not participate in the Speech Analytics Masterclass It's for those, your learning is done. You know it all. And I would dare to say you're probably not even on this webinar if you are that type of person, or you've just hit disconnect. And you know what? You should, because this isn't for you. If you think that your organization is way too unique and we do something that's so individual, it is so unable to learn from others, then you're right, this isn't for you. And those closed-minded and rigid people and people that complain all the time, that you don't want to be part of the speech analytics masterclass, because here is what you get. Again, the opportunity to learn about speech analytics forever. Now, you may say that, hey, well, I don't want to do this forever. Well, I can tell you the opportunity exists there. You're going to get tools like Carmit was talking about in order to help you to make those decisions on projects that you're going to undertake, to organize those particular projects, to plan and talk to and engage with different stakeholders, to be able to clean your data and understand your data sourcing and your inventory of data, all of those types of things that you need in order to be able to have a successful speech analytics program. And this whole peer learning opportunity in of itself is massive. And then you can also prove to others, how you not only know about this information, but that you're actively learning about this solution and being successful through your certification. So here's an opportunity for you to enroll. So what does enrolling in Speech Analytics Masterclass actually mean? Well, it means you get access to the 101 course. And the 101 course, these are all of the things that you find in there. And it's to give you an understanding about the different types of technologies and give you several tools for success in regards to, putting in place the elements and the items that are going to take you from being unsure to sure. Again, we talked about success and what does that mean from a mental aspect. You may say, well, you know what? I'm already past this. I've already implemented. But again, that goes back to the open-minded and closed-minded thing. Seeing how other people do things may allow you to validate what you already know. And that in itself has value. But then on the other side, it's like, I didn't necessarily look at it that way, and maybe I can make a tweak. It's by taking those pieces of information from others that enable all of us to raise our performance levels. And so the Speech Analytics Masterclass, if you were going to purchase that by yourself, you could go and find this class in other places where they'll put you through a course or they'll put you through a workshop, and pay that. Well, that's included in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. Then you have the 301 class. We take it up to the next level. We also start thinking about that path to actually value and how you move up the ladder, right? That's going to be presented to you very clearly in how you get there. What is involved with it? When you should consider going to the next level? What's required to go into the next level? All that is included in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. This is a little bit more advanced. This isn't that beginner level. This is those that want to accelerate their path to success. Well, what does that look like, right? Then you start getting deeper into the different technologies and the nuances associated. And then what are the tools that you need? You're given that in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. And then we get to our 501. So the 501, you could say, well, that is only for the elite organizations. Well, I would have to say, isn't that a goal? Because also it's going to be a situation where when you start talking about 2 years from now, 3 years from now, some of these things are going to be common. And so it needs to be a goal. So when we start talking about how do we get up the value ladder, we have to make sure that we're avoiding the pitfalls. And Carmit goes over and lays out all of these different issues associated with moving up that value ladder and really taking your program from one that has the chances of growing 500%. Because you've made a significant impact to your organization. Now, you can say, well, we're just a small operation. That doesn't necessarily prohibit you from gaining significant value from this. There's learning opportunities for everybody depending on wherever you are in your own maturation cycle or maturation or educational journey in regards to the Speech Analytics Masterclass. Because there's a lot of people out there that are in the same position you are with the same desires and goals. And they're all having the opportunity to convene and work and support one another to be successful with their own speech analytics programs. There's also talking about those slew of bonus materials. And here's the thing about Carmit. As you know, she prepares and she also continues to tweak. And so she's going to be continually adding to the list of bonus materials and contributing and supporting people in the community for the Speech Analytics Masterclass. Because here's the thing about Carmit. She's not just an expert. She's also a practitioner. He wants to make sure that she's successful, and gathering perspectives from others is critically important. Now, I'm speaking for you, Carmit, but I've had the opportunity to work with you for several years, and I know that that is something that you are very keenly aware of, is how could I do it better next time? And that's
absolutely. I'm a lifelong learner, and so I'm always going to try and do things better, things differently. And the fact is that the business environment is changing. The challenges are changing, and the way that we can use speech analytics to gain insight and transform organizations is constantly going to be changing.
I also talked about the importance of certification. Now, you may say, well, this isn't from a university. Well, okay, that is true. However, it does convey to others that you have gone through and put in the effort to learn, and then you can also share with them how you're continuing to learn. Because again, the Speech Analytics Masterclass and you enrolling in the Speech Analytics Masterclass is really one of the places where that you can do that on an ongoing basis, on demand, 24/7, 365. So enrolling gives you access to all of these things. And that community, I can't tell you how important that is. When you look at adult learning and how we learn, one of the most significant ways that we all learn is in community with others. And if I'm in a community with all of those speech analytics professionals that are trying to get success out of their programs and their own careers, this is your opportunity to have that, and have it to be free of, influences that may be trying to get you to do things that you don't want. And you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to elaborate on that. Okay. So how much would success mean to your organization? Well, if we talk about speech analytics for Carmit, just that one particular project, that's, millions of dollars, right? Now you may say, well, not a big organization. I'm not going to have that kind of impact either cost savings or customer retention, or customer, acquisition or conversion. Well, how do you know that? Right. So this could be the opportunity, but as far as worth to your own value, your contribution to your organization, to others that are part of your team, how much, would a speech analytics program and speech analytics education, mean to you? The fact is, guaranteed. So one of the things that we've done with the Speech Analytics Masterclass is we know that it's not for everyone, right? So if you're sitting there worried and saying, well, I'm not sure if I should do this, the risk is removed from you. But for those that are, wanting to be open-minded, want to be part of a community, want to learn, want to have, different perspectives, want to have tools to help them. And for those of you, hey, this is an easy decision. You get access to every single one of these items 24/7, 365 by enrolling in the Speech Analytics Masterclass. So you get all of these things, right? So if we were to calculate and put all of those things together, if we start looking at the bonus tools, the certification, the different classes, access to a community, it easily gets over $5,000. And for those of you who have actually gone through some of these, high-level workshops in some of these places, you've paid that. You may have paid $3,500, and then with your hotel and your travel, you've paid that money. But you know what? That learning is gone once you go there. You go to that 2-3 day workshop, it's gone. That's not going to happen with the Speech Analytics Masterclass. So you also get an opportunity to get access to every single one of those things for $479. That's the enrollment, and that's what we're doing right now for the Speech Analytics Masterclass in our founders enrollment class. So all of you, this is a limited opportunity to get the Speech Analytics Masterclass access for this particular price. And what we've also done in order to try to be able to get as many people going on their pathway to success with speech analytics is that we're offering it until September 15th at 50% off. So for only $239.50, get access to all of those things that are learning opportunities for you and performance improvement opportunities. And we're doing this because we have a passion for learning. We have a passion for success. We have a passion for analytics, and we have an open mind, and we love building communities. So This is your chance to enroll in a speech analytics masterclass now. Now, once this expires, will we ever bring it back? I can't say yes or no to that. I don't know. But I do know that for a limited time right here, right now, that going until September 15th, that this class, masterclass, the Virtual Learning Academy is available for $239.50. And it's guaranteed, right? So, Carmit, I don't know what else we can do with this as far as, with making and giving people an opportunity. And so if you have any additional questions, please reach out to me. You can connect with both of us on LinkedIn. And I just want to say again, the limited time offer, the overall price of $479, we don't know if we're going to keep it there. It depends on, how many people we get, how much, we continue to grow this community. And so this is an early opportunity to get into this and to shape everything that we do, because your learning, your perspectives, and your needs are going to continue to be fed into what is created for the Speech Analytics Masterclass. So right now, you can go to speechanalyticsmasterclass.com and get this class for $239.50 up until September 15th. Carmit, I want to thank you again for all that you've done in regards to the contact center industry and educating them on speech analytics, including myself, because I've learned a ton and I continue to learn a ton. And I'm looking forward to continue to work with you ongoing on this Speech Analytics Masterclass.
Yeah, likewise. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone and learning together. So please join us.